Marley was dead to begin with. There was no doubt whatever about that. The register of his burial was signed by the clergyman, the clerk, the undertaker, and the chief mourner. Scrooge signed it, and Scrooge's name was good upon change for anything he chose to put his hand to. Old Marley was dead as a doornail. Scrooge knew he was dead. Of course he did. Scrooge and he were partners for I don't know how long. Scrooge was Marley's sole friend, and at the end, his sole mourner. Oh, but he was a tight-fisted hand to the grindstone, Scrooge. A squeezing, wrenching, grasping, scraping, clutching, covetous old sinner. Hard and sharp as a flint, secret, self-contained, solitary as an oyster.
Rest ye gentlemen, let nothing you dismay. Remember Christ our Savior was born on Christmas Day, to save us all from Satan's power when we were gone astray. Oh, tidings of comfort and joy, comfort and joy. Oh, tidings of comfort and joy.
And once upon a time, of all the good days in the year, on Christmas Eve, old Scrooge sat busy in his counting house, a grim, cheerless place if there ever was one. It was a cold, biting evening, and people in the court outside could be heard stamping their feet to keep them warm. The door of Scrooge's counting house was open, so that he might keep an eye on the clerk, Bob Cratchit, who in a cold and dismal little cell beyond worked at his ledgers.
Nothing you dismay.
13, 17, 1.
Born on Christmas Day.
Well,
Close the door, Cratchit! Shut out that infernal caterwauling!
yes, Mr. Scrooge?
Confound their impudence. Cratchit,
Yes, Mr. Scrooge?
I want you to finish posting this ledger. And after that, run over to Fothergill's and collect that 17 shillings and 6pence he's owed me since Michaelmas. And tell him I shall have the constable over there if he doesn't pay it at once.
Well, sir, Mr. Fothergill's wife has been ill.
Oh, what do I care about his wife? I want my 17 and 6.
I just thought it being Christmas, sir.
Christmas! Christmas. You mention that word to me once more, Bob Cratchit, and I will have your...
Merry Christmas! Merry Christmas, Bob!
Merry Christmas, Mr. Fred.
Merry Christmas to you, Uncle! Merry Christmas, Uncle!
What? Humbug.
Christmas a humbug, Uncle? No, sure, you don't mean that.
Oh, I mean just that. Exactly that. Merry Christmas. What right have you to be merry? What reason have you to be merry? You're poor enough.
Ha! Well, then what right have you to be dismal about Christmas, Uncle? You're rich enough.
Humbug!
Ah, don't be cross, Uncle.
What else can I be when I live in such a world of fools? What Christmas to you? What a time for paying bills without money. Merry Christmas. A time for finding yourself a year older and not an hour richer. If I could work my will, every idiot who goes about with Merry Christmas on his lips should be boiled with his own pudding and buried with a stick of holly through his heart. He should.
Uncle!
Nephew, keep Christmas in your own way and let me keep it in mine.
Keep it? But you don't keep
Well,
it.
then let me leave it alone then. What do you want, nephew? A Christmas gift, no doubt.
I just came to wish you a Merry Christmas, Uncle.
No, Merry Christmas. Much good may Christmas do you. Much good has it ever done you.
There are many things from which I have derived good, by which I have not profited, I dare say, Uncle. Christmas and the rest. But I have always thought of Christmas as a good time, a kind, forgiving, charitable, pleasant time. And therefore, Uncle, though it has never put a scrap of gold or silver in my pocket, I say, I believe it has done me good, and will do me good, and I say God bless it.
God Christmas! Hurrah!
You let me hear another sound from you out there, Bob Cratchit, and you'll keep your Christmas by losing your situation here. As to you, nephew, I wonder you don't go into Parliament. You talking of nonsense.
Oh, don't be angry, Uncle. Come, dine with us tomorrow.
Good afternoon.
I want nothing from you. I ask nothing of you. Why can't we be friends?
Good afternoon.
Oh, I'm sorry you feel that way. Well, I've tried. A Merry Christmas, Uncle. And a Happy New Year, too.
Humbug! Humbug!
Merry Christmas to you, Bob and the missus, and to Tiny Tim.
Thank you, Mr. Fred. Same to you, sir. Good day, sir.
Good day, Bob. Merry Christmas, Uncle Ebenezer!
What old nonsense flummery! Talking of Christmas and not a sixpence to jingle against another in his trousers pocket. You there? Bob Cratchit, you there?
Yes, sir.
What are you doing in there?
Oh, I was only putting a bit of coal on the fire, Mr. Scrooge. Seeing it's so cold here, sir.
You put that coal back in the scuttle.
Yes, sir.
Fire indeed. I can tell you, if you use at that rate, and I'll be soon parting company with you, Bob Cratchit. Do you understand that? Many a young fellow, they would like your situation here.
I'm sorry, sir. My fingers are getting a little stiff with the cold.
Then put on your mittens.
Merry Christmas! Merry Christmas!
There's someone at the door. See who it is?
Yes, sir.
Merry Christmas, sir.
Merry Christmas. Yes, sir?
This is the firm of Scrooge and Marley.
Yes, sir.
I should like to see the head of the firm, if I may.
Oh, very good, sir. Step this way, please.
What is it?
A gentleman to see you, Mr. Scrooge.
Yeah?
Have I the pleasure of addressing Mr. Scrooge or Mr. Marley?
Now he's been dead these 7 years tonight.
Oh,
And I'm Scrooge. No, I doubt that will be any pleasure to you, sir.
oh, well, I'm sure it will, sir. Now, Mr. Scrooge, at this season of the year, it will be fitting that we who are more fortunate should raise a fund to buy the poor some meat and drink and means of walking. You may not believe it, sir, but many thousands are now in want of common necessities, and hundreds of thousands are in want of comfort, sir.
Are there no prisons?
There are plenty of prisons, sir.
And the workhouses? They are still in operation, I trust.
I wish I could say that they are not, but they are.
And the
sir.
treadmill? And the poor law? They are in full vigor then?
Oh, very busy, sir.
I'm very glad to hear that. I was afraid from what you said at first that something had occurred to stop them in their usual course. Now, sir, what do you want with me?
Well, Mr. Scrooge, a few of us are endeavouring to raise a fund for the poor and the destitute. What shall I put you down for?
Nothing.
You wish to remain anonymous?
I wish to be let alone. I don't make merry at Christmas time, and I can't afford to help make idle people merry. And I help to support the establishments that they cannot upon. They cost enough. Let those who are badly off go there.
Well, many can't go there, sir, and many would rather die.
Then let them do so. And reduce the surplus population. Besides, how do I know that's true?
You might well know it yourself someday, Mr. Scrooge.
Oh, it's not my business. It's enough for a man to understand his own business and not to interfere with other people's. Mine occupies me constantly. Good afternoon, sir. Cratchit, show this gentleman out. Cratchit!
Yes, sir. This way, sir, please. Oh, excuse me, sir. I couldn't help overhearing. I should like to contribute 3 pence. It's all I can afford. But if there are others in worse situations than I...
You're a generous fellow. Wish I might say the same of your employer.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good day. Merry Christmas.
Good afternoon, sir, and a Merry Christmas. 24, 31, 1 and carried 3. A new scarlet cap for Tiny Tim. A comb for Martha. 33, 3 and carried a 3. A hair ribbon for Belinda. 4, 11,
Cratchit!
5, 12, 15.
Cratchit!
Yes, sir.
Cratchit, It's too late to have you go to Fothergill's. He'll be closed up for Christmas like these other fools. We may as well close up this place now.
Yes, sir. It is getting a little dark. Hard to see the figures.
I suppose you will want the entire day tomorrow, correct?
It's quite convenient, sir.
Oh, it's not convenient, and it's not fair. If I was to stop half a crown of your wages for it, why, you would think yourself ill-used, I'll be bound.
Well, sir.
Yet, you don't think me ill-used when I pay a day's wages for no work?
It's only once a year, sir.
Yeah, once a year indeed. Quite excuse for picking a man's pocket every 25th of December. And I suppose you must have the whole day. Well, see that you're here all the earlier the next morning. Do you understand?
Oh, I will, sir. I will. Oh, well, good night, sir. Good night, and good night. Merry Christmas, Mr. Scrooge!
The office was closed in a twinkling, and Bob Cratchit, with the long ends of his white comforter dangling below his waist, for he boasted no greatcoat, went down the slide on Cornhill 20 times in honor of its being Christmas Eve, and then ran home to Camden Down as hard as he could help to play with his family at Blind Man's Club. Scrooge, on the other hand, took his melancholy dinner in his usual melancholy tavern, and having read all the newspapers and spent the rest of the evening with his banker's book, went home to his dismal house. The yard was so dark that even Scrooge, who knew its very stone, had to grope with his hands. The fog and frost hung about the old black gateway of the house. Darkness is chief in Scrooge liked. Before he shut his heavy door, he walked through his rooms to see that all was right. Sitting room, bedroom, lumber room, all as they should be. Nobody under the table, nobody under the sofa. A small fire in the grate of his bedroom, a spoon and basin ready, and a little saucepan of gruel on the hob. Nobody under the bed, nobody in the closet. Closed his door and locked himself in, double locked himself in. Then took off his cravat, put on his dressing gown and slippers and his nightcap, and sat down before the fire to make his gruel. It was a very low fire indeed, nothing on such a bitter night, not even enough to kindle a glow of light in the cheerless room. Scrooge stretched his numb fingers over the wretched fire. Then he saw something that made him draw back. Slowly, the meager embers dissolved before his astonished eyes, dissolved into a face, a ghostly face, but one that Scrooge recognized as the face of Marley. Marley, his old business partner, dead these 7 years. He was not angry or ferocious, but looked at Scrooge as Marley used to look, with ghostly spectacles turned up on its ghostly forehead. The hairs were curiously stirred, like flames blown from a chimney raft, and through the death-cold eyes, Scrooge saw the buttons on the back of its coat.
Humbug! Humbug! Humbug!
Scrooge got up and walked away from the fire. As he turned, his glance happened to rest upon a bell, a disused bell that hung in the corner of the room. It was with great astonishment and with a strange, inexplicable dread that as he looked, he saw this bell begin to swing, slowly at first. As Scrooge turned to the door, a face appeared there. The same face he had seen in the fire, Marley's face. And Marley's body coming straight at him through the door. A body as pale as the bluish smoke that comes out of the chimney on a cold day. A body so transparent that Scrooge, looking through his waistcoat, could see his watch in his waistcoat pocket. The chain he drew was clasped about his middle. It was long and wound about him like a tail, and it was made of cash boxes, keys, padlocks, and heavy purses wrought in steel. Even now, Scrooge would not open his eyes. The ghost advanced toward him.
Ebenezer Scrooge! Ebenezer Scrooge!
Marley, what do you want with me?
Much.
Who are you?
Ask me who I was.
Who were you then? You're quite particular, or ghost.
In life, I was your partner, Jacob Marley.
Jacob Marley, but you're dead. You died 7 years ago this very night.
You do not believe in me then?
I do not.
Why do you doubt your senses?
Well, because a little thing affects them. A slight disorder of the stomach makes them cheat. You may be an undigested bit of beef. You might be a blot of mustard or a crumb of cheese or a fragment of an underdone potato. There may be more gravy than grave about you, whatever you are. Humbug, I tell you. Humbug!
At this, the spirit, taking off the bandage from around its head, as if it were too warm to wear indoors, its lower jaw dropped upon its breast.
Man of the worldly mind, do you believe in me now?
I do, Jacob, I do. Why do you walk there? Why do you come to me, Jacob?
It is required of every man that the spirit within him should walk abroad among his fellow men and travel far and wide to witness what it cannot share, but might have shared on earth, and turn to happiness.
Tell me, Jacob, what is that chain you wear about you?
These are the chains I forged in life. Cash boxes, keys, padlocks, ledgers, purses. I made it link by my own free will. Is its pattern strange to you, Ebenezer? Yours was as heavy and as long as this 7 years ago, and you've lived on it since, Ebenezer Scrooge.
Jacob, oh Jacob Marley, tell me more, but speak comfort to me.
I have none to give. No rest, no peace. Incessant torture of remorse.
But you were always a good man of business.
Business! Mankind was my business. Charity, mercy, benevolence, they were all my business. The dealings of my trade were but a drop of water in the comprehensive ocean of my business.
Jacob!
Hear me, Ebenezer Scrooge, my time is nearly gone.
I will. But don't be hard on me. Speak to me, Jacob.
I am here tonight to warn you that you have yet a chance and hope of escaping my fate.
You were always a good friend to me, Jacob. Thank you. Now go on. Go on, Jacob.
Listen to me, Ebenezer. You will be haunted by 3 spirits.
I think I'd rather not.
Without their visits, Ebenezer, you cannot hope to shun the path I tread. Expect the first tomorrow night when the clock strikes 1. Expect the second on the next night at the same hour, and the third upon the next. Look to see me no more, and look at, for your own sake, you remember what has passed between us.
Marley! Jacob Marley!
Sleep.
his bed fully dressed, when suddenly the curtains of his bed were drawn aside, and Scrooge found himself face to face with the unearthly visitor who drew them, as close to it as I am to you now if I was standing at your elbow. It was a strange figure, like a child, yet not so like a child as like an old soul. Its hair, which hung about its neck and down its back, was white as if with age, and yet the face had not a wrinkle on it, and the tenderest dew was on the skin. The arms were long and muscular, the hands the same, as if its hold were of uncommon strength. Its dress was of the purest white, trimmed with summer flowers. It held a branch of fresh green holly in its hand, but the strangest thing about it was that from the crown of its head there sprang a clear jet of light by which all this was visible, and which was, but doubtless, the occasion of its using in its duller moments a great extinguisher for a cap, which it now held under its arm.
Ebenezer Scrooge? Ebenezer Scrooge?
I am the spirit whose coming was foretold to me.
I am.
Who and what are you?
I am the ghost of Christmas past.
Long past.
No, your past.
What business brings you here? What do you want of me?
Your welfare. Ebenezer Scrooge, rise and walk with me.
No, not the window. I'm mortal. I will fall to my death.
Bear but a touch of my hand. There, upon your heart. And you shall be upheld in more than this. Come, follow me. Let us go.
They stood upon an open country road with fields on either hand. The city had entirely vanished. The darkness and the mist had vanished with it, for it was a clear, cold winter day with snow upon the ground. They walked along the road. Scrooge began to recognize every gate, every post, every tree, until a little market town appeared in the distance, with its bridge, its church, and its winding river. Some shaggy ponies were now seen trotting toward them, with boys upon their backs or in sleighs. And these boys were all in great spirits, and shouted to each other that they were happy, shouting through the broad fields until they were so full of music that the crisp air laughed to hear it.
Tis the season to be jolly,
And there stood old Scrooge in his dressing gown and his slippers and his nightcap on the hill, and beside him the spirit of Christmas past. And now the spirit spoke again.
What all the boys and girls were singing on that Christmas day? Were they, Ebenezer Scrooge? See the bleak building over there?
That building? I was a boy there. I went to school in that horrible place.
Do you recollect the way?
I could walk it blindfolded.
Strange, you've forgotten it. For so many years. Come, let us go closer. Look through the window into this cold, barren room. What do you see, Ebenezer Scrooge?
I see a boy.
A solitary child, sent away by his family, neglected by his friends, sitting alone. A book open in front of him.
Yes, I see it. I know that boy. I was so lonely. Poor boy.
Your lip is trembling, Scrooge. And what's that on your cheek?
Nothing. I wish but it's too late now.
What is the matter?
Nothing. The waifs, they came to my door singing Christmas carols last night. there was a boy like that among them, a poor, thin, pale boy in a ragged coat. I sent them away. I should like to have given them something. That's all.
That is all. Come, Ebenezer Scrooge. Let us see another Christmas. You know this place, Ebenezer?
Know it? What? This is the counting house where I was apprentice.
Listen!
Hello, everyone! Now choose your partners!
Oh, it's my old master. Bless his heart, it's my old master. Fezziwig, alive again. And host of one of his Christmas parties.
Advance and now retire. Now hold hands with the partners. Gentlemen, you bow, and the ladies shall curtsy. Now give it a corkscrew, thread the needle, and back to your places.
Miss Clark, we were so full of joy on Christmas Eve, and the tables, look, they're loaded with roasts and cider and mince pie and beer. What a jolly time we used to have.
Look, Scrooge. Look at that carefree young man with the light heart and the gay smile. Do you recognize him, Ebenezer?
Oh, yes. How happy I was back then.
Small matter for old Fezziwig to make all these silly folks so full of joy.
Small matter? Small matter?
He has spent only a few pounds of your mortal money. Is that so much that he deserves praise?
It's not that spirit. Oh, Fezziwig, why? He has the power to make us happy or unhappy, to make our service light or heavy. His power lies in his words and his looks and things so tiny. It is impossible to count them up. That he gives is quite as great as if it cost a fortune.
What is the matter, Ebenezer?
Nothing particular.
Something, I think.
No, it's only I should like to be able to say a word or two to my dad about Cratchit just now. That's all.
All right, everyone, hold hands with the partners. Advance and retire. Remember now, bow and curtsy and thread the needle.
My time grows short, and we have yet another journey to make.
Where now?
Come.
Again, Scrooge saw himself in a room that was vaguely familiar. He was an older man, a man in the prime of his life. His face has begun to wear the signs of care and avarice. He was not alone, but sat by the side of a fair young girl. There were tears in her eyes.
Matters little to you, Ebenezer. Very little I know. Another idol has displaced me. If it can cheer and comfort you in time to come, as I would have tried to do, I have no just cause to grieve.
What idol has displaced you?
A golden one.
Girl, listen to me. There's nothing in the world so hard as poverty, yet nothing it pretends to condemn so much as the pursuit of love.
The world again? You fear the world too much, Ebenezer.
Belle, have I changed toward you?
When we were engaged, we were both poor.
Was it better then, Belle? Was it better to be poor?
Better at least to be happy. You're changed. You were another man then.
I was a boy. Do you blame me because I've grown wiser? Have I ever tried to break out an engagement?
In words, no, never.
In what then?
In a changed nature. In an altered spirit. In everything that made my love of any value in your sight. So, I release you from your promise.
Belle, I love love you still.
At first it may cause you pain to lose me, but a very brief pain. And soon it will be dim, like a half-remembered dream. An unprofitable dream. And you'll be glad to be awake from such a dream. May you be happy in the life you have chosen, Ebenezer. For the love of him you once were.
Spirit, it is enough. Show me no more.
These were the shadows of the things that have been. That they are what they are. Do not blame me.
No more. No more.
One shadow more. Come.
The relentless ghost pinioned him in both arms and forced him to observe what happened next. They were in a room not very large or handsome, but full of comfort. All around them were the voices of children talking and laughing, and before the winter fire sat a beautiful young girl, so like the last that Scrooge believed it was the same, until he saw her, the girl he had been betrothed to, now a handsome middle-aged woman, sitting with her husband at their own fireside.
Do you see this man, Ebenezer Scrooge? This man might have been you. And that girl might have been your daughter, Ebenezer Scrooge. She might have called you father. She might have been a springtime in the barren winter of your life.
Let me go. Show me no more.
Listen now while they speak, Ebenezer.
Well, I saw an old friend of yours today.
Who was it?
Yes.
Oh, how can I? Oh, I know. Mr. Scrooge.
Ah, Mr. Scrooge it was. I passed his office window, and there was a candle inside, so I couldn't help seeing him. His partner lies at the point of death, I hear. And there Scrooge sat, all alone. Quite alone in the world, I do believe. Spirit, remove me. Haunt me no more. Leave me. Take me back. Take me back.
In his anguish, Scrooge began to struggle with the ghost of Christmas past. The lights in the crown of its head burned high and bright. Scrooge, in a last desperate effort, tore the extinguisher cap from its hand and by a sudden action pressed it down upon its head. And Scrooge was being conscious of being exhausted and overcome by irresistible drowsiness, and further, of being in his own bedroom. He gave the cap a parting squeeze, in which his hand relaxed, and had barely time to reel to bed before he sank into a heavy sleep.
Peace on earth and mercy mild, God and sinners reconciled. Joyful all ye nations.
the stroke of 1, Scrooge suddenly awoke and sat bolt upright in his own bed. He quickly remembered the words of Marley's ghost and wondered from which direction the second spectre would appear. So he drew aside all his bed curtains and, lying down again, established a sharp lookout all around him. Now, being prepared for almost anything, he was not by any means prepared for nothing. And consequently, when no shape appeared, he was taken with a violent fit of trembling. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, a quarter of an hour went by, yet nothing came. All this time he lay upon the bed, the very core and center of a blaze of ruddy light. Being only light, this was more than alarming than a dozen ghosts, as he was powerless to make out what it meant. At last he began to think that the source of this ghostly light might be in the adjoining room, from whence on further tracing it seemed to shine. So he got up and softly shuffled in his slippers to the door. It was indeed his own sitting room. There was no doubt about that, but it had undergone a surprising transformation. The walls and ceiling were so hung with living green that it looked a perfect rose, from every part of which bright gleaming berries glistened. And such a mighty blaze went whirring up the chimney as had never been known in Scrooge's time, or for many a winter season gone by. Heaped upon the floor to form a kind of throne were turkeys, geese, game, poultry, great joints of meat, suckling pigs, long wreaths of sausages, mince pies, plum puddings, barrels of oysters, red-hot chestnuts, and seething bowls of punch that made the chamber dim with their delicious steam. And in easy state upon this couch there sat a jolly giant, glorious to see, who bore a glowing torch in shape not unlike Plenty's horn, and held it up, high up, to shed its light on Scrooge as he came peeping around the door.
Ha ha! Come in, Ebenezer Scrooge, and know me better, man.
You're...
I am the ghost of Christmas present. Look upon me! Ha ha! You've never seen the like of me before.
Spirit, conduct me where you will. I went forth last time on compulsion and I learned a lesson, which is working now. If tonight you have anything to teach me, let me profit by it.
Ah, touch my robe, Ebenezer Scrooge. Touch my robe.
The room vanished. So did the fire, the ruddy glow, the hour of night vanished. Sunlight rushed past them as they streamed through the clear morning air. The second spectre flew at a more leisurely pace, and Scrooge had time to observe people below him shuffling snow on city roofs, calling out to one another from the parapets, and now and then pelting each other with snowballs. In the streets below them, the poulterers' shops were still happening, and the fruiterers were radiant in their holiday glory. Scrooge and his ghostly guide circled the tall spires as the steeples called good people all to church and chapel. And there below them lay Camden Town, with its squalid streets of ugly frame houses. Of all these dwellings, the ghosts selected the humblest for their visit. Scrooge, by now past all surprise, recognized Bob Cratchit's wife, dressed in a twice-turned gown, but brave in ribbons, busily laying the table. Assisting her were Belinda Cratchit, second of her daughters, also brave in ribbons, while Master Peter Cratchit plunged a fork into the saucepan of potatoes. And now two smaller Cratchits, a boy and girl, came tearing in, screaming that outside the baker's they had smelled a goose and had known it for their own, and now basking in luxurious thoughts of sage and onions. And three more Cratchits danced about the table. Then once more the door opened.
Martha! We've got a goose! Wait till you see it, Martha! Quiet, children, quiet! Why, bless your heart alive, Martha, my dear. Merry Christmas to you. Merry Christmas, Mother. How late you are, Martha. We had a deal of work to finish up last night, and we had to clear it all away this morning. Well, never you mind, so long as you're here now. Sit ye down before the fire and have a drink. Lord bless you. But where's Father? He's been to church with Tiny Tim. Oh, he'll be along directly. How is Tiny Tim, Mother? Any better at all? Sometimes I think he is, and sometimes I think he is. Oh, Mother, anything should happen to Tiny Tim. Tiny Tim should die. Mother, you mustn't even think of such a thing.
Here they come.
Oh, it's Father and Tiny Tim! Merry Christmas, Father! And Tim!
Merry Christmas, everyone, and Martha!
Merry Christmas, Mother!
And there was Bob Cratchit with at least 3 feet of comforter, exclusive of the fringe, hanging down before him, and his threadbare clothes darned up and brushed to look seasonable, and Tiny Tim upon his shoulder. Poor Tiny Tim. He carried a little crutch and had his limbs supported by an iron frame.
And how did little Tim behave at church, Bob? Oh, I liked church, Mother. They sang the nicest hymns, and the people were so kind to me. It was such fun riding home on Daddy's shoulder.
He behaved as good as gold, and better. Somehow, he gets thoughtful, sitting by himself so much, and thinks the strangest things you ever heard. He told me, coming home, that he hoped the people saw him in church because he was lame, and it might be pleasant for them to remember, on Christmas Day, who made lame beggars walk and blind men see.
Tim, you darling. Mother, the goose is ready.
The goose, Mother.
Mother, I'm hungry. The goose! Yes, children, all ready. Come, take your places and wait your turn. There's plenty of stuffing and dressing and plum pudding for all of you. Now, Martha, you must take care of Tiny Tim. Yes, that's right. And see that he eats plenty. He must get strong and well.
Now shall we say grace?
Yes, Bob.
Our Father, who art in heaven, we thank thee for the daily bread, which in thy mercy thou dost give to us. Bless us this Christmas day. Keep us all together so that for many years to come, we may unite here to do thy will and praise thy name. Amen.
Amen.
And now, my dears, with such a dinner, a toast. A Merry Christmas to us all, and God bless us.
God bless us. God bless us, everyone.
And now to Mr. Scrooge, I'll give you a toast to Mr. Scrooge, the founder of the feast.
The founder of the feast, indeed. Who pays you all of 15 shillings a week? I wish I had him here. I'd give him a piece of my mind to feast on, and I hope he'd have a good appetite for it.
My dear, the children, Christmas Day?
Well, it should be on Christmas Day, I'm sure, on which one drinks the health of such an odious, stingy, unfeeling man as Mr. Scrooge. You know he is, Bob. Nobody knows it better than you, poor fellow.
My dear, it's Christmas Day.
Well, I'll drink his health for your sake and the day's, not for his. Long life to him. A Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. They'll be very merry and very happy, I have no doubt. And I say God bless him too, Mother, and everyone.
There was nothing of high mark in all this. They were not a handsome family, these Cratchits. They were not well dressed, and their shoes were far from being waterproof. Their clothes were scanty and had known very likely the inside of a pawnbroker's. But they were happy, grateful, pleased with one another, and contented with the time. And when at last they faded, Scrooge had his eyes upon them, and especially on Tiny Tim, until the last.
Spirit, tell me. Tell me if Tiny Tim will live.
I see a vacant seat, and in the poor chimney corner, elsewhere preserved, a crutch without an owner. If these shadows remain unaltered, the child will not see another person.
No, no, kind Spirit. Say he will be spared. Say he will live.
What then? If one be like to die, then let him do so and decrease the surplus population. Isn't that what you said just today, Ebenezer Scrooge?
Scrooge hung his head to hear his own words quoted by the Spirit, and was overcome with penitence and grief. Many calls Scrooge made that night with the ghost of Christmas present. Now he stood upon a bleak and desert moor, where monstrous masses of rude stone were cast about, as though it were the burial place of giants. Down in the west, the setting sun had left a streak of fiery red, which glared upon the desolation for an instant, like a sullen eye, then was lost in the thick gloom of darkest night. A light shone from the window of a hut. Passing through the wall of mud and stone, they found a cheerful company assembled around a glowing fire. An old man and woman, with their children and their children's children, all decked out in their holiday attire.
In this place, Ebenezer Scrooge, the miners live, who labor in the bowels of the earth. Still they know me. Do you hear?
I hear, Spirit, but why?
Why?
Why do they welcome Christmas? Spirit, what is there to celebrate? Children's clothes are so ragged and torn in their meal. Why, it's so meager. It's certainly not enough to feed, 1, 2, 6 children and more. And their lodgings are, why, it's no more than a stone hut.
Ah, Ebenezer, do you not see? Do you not hear? Look upon this family, Ebenezer Scrooge, and tell me, who is the richer, you or they?
The Spirit did not tarry here, but bade Scrooge hold his road, and passing on above the moor, they sped on. Whither? Not to sea, to sea. To Scrooge's horror, looking back, he saw the last of the night. Below him were waves breaking upon a frightful range of rocks, but built on a dismal reef of sunken stones, some league or so from shore, there stood a solitary lighthouse.
Ships come sailing in on Christmas Day, on Christmas Day. I saw 3 ships come sailing in on Christmas Day in the morning, and all the bells on the shall ring on Christmas Day, on Christmas Day, and all the bells on the shall ring on Christmas Day in the morning, and all the angels in heaven shall sing on Christmas Day, on Christmas Day, and all the angels in heaven shall sing on Christmas Day in the morning. And all the souls on earth shall sing on Christmas Day, on Christmas Day. And all the souls on earth shall sing on Christmas Day in the morning.
Great heaps of seaweed clung to its base. Storm birds, born of the wind, rose and fell about it like the waves that they skimmed. Again the ghosts sped on above the dark and heaving sea, on and on until they lighted on a ship. They stood beside the helmsman at the wheel, the lookout in the bow, the men who had the watch, dark ghostly figures in their several stations.
Oh,
It was a great surprise to Scrooge, while listening to the moaning of the wind, to hear laughter. It was a much greater surprise to Scrooge to recognize it as his own nephew's, and to find himself in a bright, dry, gleaming room, with the Spirit standing smiling by his side.
ha 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 ha! And he said that Christmas was a humbug, as I live, and believes it too.
More shame on him, Fred.
He's a comical old fellow, that's the truth, and not so pleasant as he might be. However, his offenses carry their own punishment, and I have nothing to say against him.
Oh, well, I'm sure he's very rich, Fred. At least you always tell me so.
And what of that, my dear? His wealth is of no use to him. He doesn't do any good with it. He doesn't make himself comfortable with it. He hasn't the satisfaction of thinking that he is ever going to benefit us with it.
Oh, well, I have little patience with him.
Oh, I have. I feel sorry for him. I couldn't be angry with him, I tried. Who suffers from his ill whims? Himself, always. He even refuses to come and dine with us. But I mean to offer him the same chance every year, whether he likes it or not. For I pity him. A Merry Christmas and a Happy Year to you, Uncle Scrooge. You wouldn't take it from me, but you shall have it, nevertheless.
The whole scene passed off in the breath of the last words spoken by his nephew, and he and the Spirit were again upon their travels. Much they saw, and far they went, and many places they visited, but always with a happy end. The Spirit stood beside sick beds, and they were cheerful. On foreign lands, and they were close at home. By poverty, and it was rich. In almshouse, hospital, and jail, where vain man, in his little brief authority, had not made fast the door and barred the Spirit out, he left his blessing. It was a long night, if it were only a night. And it was strange, too, that while Scrooge remained unaltered in his outward form, the ghost grew older, clearly older.
My life on this globe is very weak, Ebenezer. It ends tonight.
Tonight?
Night at midnight. The hour is come.
Not yet. Not yet. There are still more things I wish to learn.
These you will learn from still another spirit. Still another spirit, Ebenezer.
Scrooge looked about him for the ghost. It had vanished, and he found himself once more in his bed, in his dressing gown, and in his nightcap. He heard the clock strike, and remembered the prediction of old Jacob Marley, and lifting up his eyes beheld a solemn phantom, draped and hooded, coming toward him like a mist on the ground. The Spirit slowly, gravely, silently approached. In the very air through which it moved, it seemed to scatter gloom and mystery.
I am the ghost of Christmas yet to come. Ebenezer Scrooge, I am about to show you the shadows of the things that have not yet happened, but will happen in the time before us.
Ghost of the future. I fear you more than any spectre I have seen. But lead on. Lead on. The night is waning fast, and it is precious time.
Scrooge followed in the shadow of its dress, which bore him up and carried him along. And suddenly they were in a room which Scrooge seemed to remember having seen before, where a woman and child were.
Oh, my son! My little son! Tiny Tim! I loved him so. Mother! Mother, dear, you mustn't. It's almost time for Father to be home. But don't let him see you crying. Yes, Mother. He's late tonight. He walks slower than he used to. And yet I've known him to walk very fast indeed, with Tiny Tim on his shoulder.
So my mother. But he was light to carry. And his father loved him so that it was no trouble. No trouble at all. Bob,
Good evening, my dear.
you're late, Bob.
I'm sorry, my dear. I went to the churchyard today. I wish you could have gone with me. It would have done your heart good to see how sweet and green a place it is. But you'll see it often. I promised Tiny Tim we'd walk there on Sunday.
Oh, Bob!
It's God's will, my dear.
Oh, my son. Oh, my little son, Tiny Tim. I loved him so.
Scrooge tried to break through the shade that held him, to talk with Bob Cratchit, to speak some word of comfort. But the sleeve of the Ghost of Christmas Yet to Come passed in front of him and shut the family from his view. And now they were in an obscure part of town, where Scrooge had never been before. The ways were foul and narrow, the shops and houses wretched, the people drunken, slipshod, ugly. The whole quarter reeked with crime, with filth and misery. Deep in this den of infamous resort there was a low-browed, beetling pawn shop where iron, old rags, and bottles were bought. And there was an old charwoman standing at the counter.
Aye, undo me bundle, Joe.
I hope Scrooge didn't die of nothing catching.
Aye, don't be afraid. I ain't so fond of his company that I'd take a chance of that. Aye, there, you may look through that shirt to your eyes, eh? And you won't find a hole in it. It's the best he had, and a fine one, too. They'd have wasted it if it hadn't been for me.
What do you call wasting of it, Miss Gilbert?
Putting it on him to be buried in. Somebody was fool enough to do it, but I took it off him again. If calico ain't good enough for such a purpose, it ain't good enough for anything. He can't look uglier than he did in that one, the old Laura. Hey, and here's his bed curtains. Small use he'll have for him where he's going.
That's the truest word you ever spoke, Miss Gilbert.
So, this is the end of him, you see. He frightened everyone away from him when he was alive to robbing us when he was dead.
The phantom spread its dark robe before him for a moment like a wing, and withdrawing it, revealed another place, a churchyard, walled in by houses, overrun by grass and weeds, choked up with too much burying, fat with repeated appetite. A worthy place. The spirit stood among the graves and pointed down to one. Scrooge crept toward it, trembling as he went, and, following the finger, read upon the stone of the neglected grave his own name.
Ebenezer Scrooge.
Spirit, am I? Am I the man who lay dead beneath that stone?
The spirit pointed from the grave to him, and back again.
Is there no one that mourns me?
The spirit moved its black garmented head slowly from side to side.
Spirit, if there is even one person who failed to grieve upon my death, show that person to me. I beseech you.
There was no one, Ebenezer Scrooge.
Show me these things if they cannot be changed. Spirit, answer me one thing. Are these the shadows of things that will be? Or are they only the shadows of things that may be? I am not the man I was. Tell me that I may change these dreadful shadows, Spirit.
And then Scrooge saw an alteration in the phantom's hood and dress. It shrank, collapsed, and dwindled into a bedpost. Yes, and the bedpost was his own. The bed was his own. The room was his own. Best and happiest of all, the time before him was his own to make amends. Running to the window, he opened it. He put out his head. No fog, no mist, clear, bright, jovial, stirring air. Cold, piping for the blood to dance to. Golden sunlight, heavenly sky, Sweet fresh air, merry bells. Oh, glorious, glorious.
You there? Boy, what's today?
Eh? What's that, sir?
What day is it, my fine fellow?
Today? Why, it's Christmas Day.
Christmas Day. Christmas Day. That I haven't missed it. Oh, the spirits have done it all in one night. All in one night. Heaven be praised. Oh, my fine fellow. Do you know the poulterers at the corner?
I should hope that I did.
Oh, an intelligent boy. A remarkable boy. Do you know whether they have sold the prize turkey that was there? Oh, not the little prize turkey. The big one.
The one that's as big as me. It's hanging there now.
Oh, that's a good boy. Well, you tell them to bring it here, then I may give them directions on where to take it, and I'll give you a shilling. Oh, come back with him in less than 5 minutes, and I'll give you half a crown. I'll send it to Bob Cratchit, and he shan't guess who sent it. Oh, it's twice the size of Tiny Tim. I don't know what to do next. I'm as light as a feather. I'm as happy as an angel. I'm as merry as a schoolboy. A Merry Christmas, everybody. Happy New Year to all the world. Hoop, hoop, halloo.
We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Scrooge went to church and walked about the streets and watched the people hurrying to and fro and patted the children on the head and found that everything could yield him pleasure. He had never dreamed that any walk, that anything, could give him so much happiness. In the afternoon, he turned his steps uptown. He passed the door a dozen times before he had the courage to go up and knock. But he made a dash and did it. A young girl opened the door.
Good afternoon, sir. May I help you?
Excuse me, my dear. It's my fault that you don't recognize me. I am Ebenezer Scrooge, and I was wondering if the master of the house is at home.
Ebenezer Scrooge? Why, yes. He's in the dining room, sir, along with the mistress. May I take your coat?
Bless you, my child. But no, my dear. I wouldn't blame him if it were a very short visit.
Scrooge walked hesitantly to the dining room, turned the handle gently, and sidling his face around the corner, saw a table spread out in great array.
Fred?
Why, bless my soul, who's that?
It's I. It's your Uncle Ebenezer. I have come for dinner. If you'll have me, Fred.
Have him? It is a mercy that Fred didn't shake his arm off. Scrooge was at home in 5 minutes. Nothing could be heartier. Wonderful party, wonderful games, wonderful unanimity, wonderful happiness. But Scrooge was at his office early the next morning. He went there for a reason. If he could only be there first and catch Bob Cratchit coming in late, that was the thing he'd set his heart on. And he did it. Yes, he did. The clock struck 9. Bob. The quarter passed. No Bob. Scrooge sat with his door wide open that he might see him come in. At last he came in. His hat was off before he opened the door, his comforter too. He was on his stool in a jiffy, driving away with his pen as if he were trying to overtake 9 o'clock.
8 and 7 are 15. Carry the 1. 24. Carry the 2. 31 and 5 are 36.
Hello? You, Cratchit.
Yes, sir.
Cratchit, step this way, Cratchit, if you please.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Cratchit, what do you mean by coming in at this time of day?
I'm very sorry, sir. I am behind my time.
You are? Yes, I think you are.
It's only once a year, Mr. Scrooge. It shall not be repeated. I was making rather merry yesterday, sir.
And I'll tell you what, my friend, I'm not going to stand for this sort of thing any longer. And therefore, Bob Cratchit, I'm about to raise your salary.
Are you quite yourself, sir?
No, thank heaven, I am not quite myself. Merry Christmas, Bob. Merry Christmas, my good fellow. A merrier Christmas than I've given you for many a year. I will raise your salary, and we will see. But we'll see what we can do for Tiny Tim and the rest of your family. We'll discuss it this very afternoon over a Christmas bowl of smoking Bishop Bob. We'll make up the fires, make them up and buy another coal scuttle before you dot another I, Bob Cratchit. Merry Christmas, Bob!
Joy to the world, the Lord is come. Let earth receive her King. Let every heart prepare Him room. And heaven and nature sing, and heaven and nature sing, and heaven and nature sing.
And Scrooge was better than his word. He did it all and infinitely more. And to Tiny Tim, who did not die, he was a second father. He became as good a friend, as good a master, and as good a man as the good old city knew, or any other good old city, town, or borough in the good old world. He had no further intercourse with spirits, but lived upon the total abstinence principle ever afterwards. And it was always said of him that he knew how to keep Christmas well, if any man alive possessed the knowledge. May that be truly said of us, all of us. And so as Tiny Tim observed, God bless us, everyone.
Joy to the earth, the Savior reigns. Let all her souls employ. For fields and floods, for hills and plains, repeat the sounding joy, repeat the sounding joy, repeat.